So I'm a very nuanced thinker, and I think that's extremely important. It's something I want to talk about a little bit more of how my engineering background has allowed me to think this way and the benefits and even the we'll say advantages and disadvantages you can have with a very nuanced thinking process to yourself. But what is nuance and why does it matter in coaching? First off, nuance is really, you can just sum it up as the details of something, right? So an example for this is if you look at a house, you're going to look at that house and you're going to see, let's say it's a brick house, you're going to see the bricks on the front of the house, you're going to see the roof line with the shingles, maybe the gutters, the windows with their sill, the front door, maybe a porch with its posts and railings and whatnot, and the concrete pad in the front. That's the house. And that's how we look at it, right? So if you were going to sell somebody a house, you would probably talk about a lot of those things with selling the house. Same thing with going inside the house. You'd say this is the living room, this is a bathroom, a bedroom, a kitchen, so forth, and you would sell those things. But what about the nuances of a house? The nuances of a house, such as the foundation, the block in the foundation, the spray foam insulation, the house wrap that is also goes around the plywood when you're framing a house. How about the studs, metal or wood, the individual nails and the screws that are in the house? How about the truss system for the roof and the pattern of the let's say the joist hangers and the pattern of the nail pattern in that. Those are nuances of a house that you wouldn't talk about when you were selling a house to somebody. But what if then that person who bought the house had issues with the roof and it had to do with a broken truss or something like that, and you were just not considering the nuances of a house and you didn't understand that stuff, and you needed to explain to this person why fixing this truss in their roof is going to cost them a lot of money, and they're just like, what does it matter? Just throw up a piece of wood, connect the truss, you're good. It's like, no, the truss connector, I forget what it's called right now, has to be a specific material. It has to be laid out the right way. When you nail those things in, they have to be in a specific nailing pattern for maximum strength. A roof needs to support not just the weight of itself, and it's not just there to put something over your head so you don't get rained on when you're living inside of a house. It also has to support weather conditions such as snow. If you live in an area where there's a lot of snow, and it's got to support the weight of snow for an extended period of time and increases the longevity of the house and whatnot, you would need to know the nuances of that stuff. So to me, it's really important to understand nuance in training, right? So when you're writing a simple exercise prescription for somebody where you're doing let's say a dumbbell bench press for a certain number of reps, rest, sets, tempo, all of the parameters of an exercise selection, there's a lot more to it than simply just I'm working on my pec muscles and building strength or hypertrophy. There is a lot more to that. And even though you don't always have to be speaking about those things, if you were talking to a client or explaining your programming to somebody, you should know that stuff. As coaches, we should be, I bring in my engineering background, we should be as proficient in the science of exercise science. We should really, or the science of exercise. We should be really proficient at the science of exercise, so much that if we were literally drilled on questions of what we're actually working on, you would have all the answers to. Now, obviously, you're not always going to have these answers. Over the course of your career, you want to get into the weeds more and more and more. And when you are in your normal work environment, you're not trying to get into nuance. You're not trying to flex your brain on people. You're trying to stay away from nuance. You want to keep it as simple and practical as possible, but there are times where you need to get into the nuance. And if you're someone who never learned the nuance details and you have a client that is more nuanced thinking, or maybe they're just very curious about training and programming, and they ask you questions and you're not going to have an answer. But here's two things that happen when they get those questions. You're either very humble about it and you'll say, I don't really know, I'll find out for you. Or number two, you'll make something up that's logical, and I hear this all the time. That's just putting yourself in a bad situation. So it's important to understand the nuances of exercise, the science of it, but you don't have to always be applying all of those things. Start with the first layer, the superficial layer, get the main thing out there, and then but understand everything else that beneath that supports it. I'm talking about the basic sciences of biology, physiology, anatomy, biomechanics, physics, all that stuff. You understand all that stuff, you're going to be a better coach in the long run, but it doesn't mean that you have to be talking about this stuff all the time.